Hey everybody, welcome back to Buckshot Chronicles. You guys remember Jake from Buff Creek Outdoors?
Hey guys, how's it going?
So Jake and I are finally back together. I don't know if you remember, like a month ago, the guy drove all the way down from here in Rice Lake. It was an hour and 45 minutes?
Something like that.
2 hours
down
maybe?
That way anyhow.
2 hours maybe to help me out and to do a segment on fly fishing. And I don't know if you could tell, normally I like to fish like crazy, but I wasn't feeling so hot. And so I fished. Mosquitoes were really bad too, I remember that. I was fishing and it's like, but Jake, I think I'm just going to take some video of you, kind of explain what you're doing, And
Yeah,
he's
you were
like,
saying you weren't feeling quite so good.
yeah, come to find out I had COVID. It knocked me on my butt. That's all I'm going to say. It's a month later. I'm still feeling kind of weak. Still having problems breathing. It hit me pretty hard, but I'm back. So that's why you haven't seen any Buckshot Chronicles in the last month. But I'm back. I'm going to keep this light, but we're going to keep our word. And thank you, Jake, for going ahead and go along with this with me and being so patient.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And for the help. He's really good at dam fishing. We were both dam fishermen, and we didn't know that the other one did that. I know we talked about before, he was working at Walmart, and I just moved into town, and I was trying to find places to fish, and so I was asking people, and somebody said, you should go talk to this guy over there. And I'm like, that's a high school kid. What does he know? And so I go over there, I start talking to him, and he's like, why don't you try this? I'm like, all right. Go over there, I catch muskie. And so I'm like, oh wow, I gotta go tell him thank you, And so I walk over there.
Yeah, I remember then you came back in and you're like, hey, I caught this fish. I was like, I knew it.
Yeah, I'm like, you got any other spots? And he's like, yeah, go try this one. I caught muskie. And I come back and I said, thanks, man. I couldn't believe it. Like a high school kid? Like, what? And so I'm like, well, you got any more? And he's like, well, hey, I'll come show you. If you want to go, we can go together. I'll show you some spots. And that's kind of how our friendship started, And he's an incredible fisherman. You got to go check out Buff Creek.
Buff Creek Outdoors.
Buff Creek Outdoors. Or his name is Jake. Remember I told you my mind would be going a little bit.
Jake Murphy.
Jake Murphy, and I know this. Jake Murphy on Facebook. He's a friend of mine, so you can check my friends on there. Look up Jake Murphy. He's got pictures of him fishing, or a video of him fishing at night, pulling out 55, 53, 48, 50-inch muskie just in the last month.
Yeah, I think if you dig back far enough, you can find you can find a picture where I pulled out like a 50 and a half, 51 and a half, something like that. And then the most recent one I got that'll be the easiest video to find is actually a 54 and a half inch muskie that I caught on a fly rod at night.
He does use a fly rod. Remember I told you in the last video, he uses that fly rod? He uses that fly rod to get those those big fish on that small rod. And if you're a fly fisherman, then you understand how hard that is, because he doesn't have the power of the reel or the crank and the gears and that reel to pull it in. But you're
talking, instead of 80, 90 pounds of pressure on the fish, you're looking at 5 or 10,
fraction of that,
basically enough to get the hook point to go in, and then it's your job to keep the rod bent just to keep the hook point buried in the fish, because it's really, it only takes a second for the hook pressure to drop and for that hook to come straight back out. So
yeah, so he's really good at doing stuff. So we're both going to go in today. We're going to go to the dam here in town. I know there's a couple of them around here, so I'm not really going to tell you which one, but if you're from around here, you'll know.
The dams in the area that have muskies in them, in the river system, all have nice fish swimming around them. So that's the big thing about why I started fishing in dams when I was a young kid. I didn't get my driver's license until I was 18. So it was really just about where can I bike to, or where can my parents drop me off where I cannot have to be crazy far down the river, where I can just sit and fish all day. That's the beauty of the rivers, is more so you moving around trying to find fish like you do on the lakes. The fish more migrate around the river throughout the day, so it's just figuring out what structure they're relating to during what time of the day. So,
and the time of the day we're in right now, it's after work hours. What is it, like 5:30ish, something like that?
Is it 5:30 already?
Yeah, wow. Something like 5:30. So we have about an hour here. Then we're going to run down and we're going to go hit another dam. We're kind of another place where Jake grew up, and we're going to show you that one as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over there and we're going to show you the dam. And so I'm going to show you how I look at it and what I like to do. And the reason why I'm using my bait and you will see that Jake has a couple baits. And so he goes more towards the deeper holes and stuff like that. So he'll explain why he's fishing the way he's fishing. So I'm excited to have Jake with me, and I'm excited to kind of teach you guys how to come and look at a dam and learn how to fish it. So give us a couple minutes and we'll be right back. Hey everybody, so now we're back to the dam. So I want to kind of show you how I approach a dam. And then I'll take a few casts and let Jake have a few casts, and he can show how he approaches. So I come here and I'm looking at these gates. So I see that middle gate is open. Normally there's a couple more if the water is high, but the water really isn't that high. So what I like to do is I like to get a heavier weight here. This is a 1 pound or 3/4 pound or 3/4 pound.
I believe those are 16 ounces, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get as close to those rapids as possible, bring this down, and then rip it through the water and give it some rips. Now, if you can see, I'm casting over the top of a gate. This is not easy. This takes a lot of skill to do this, or you're going to lose your baits. The problem that I'm going to run into is where that water is, it's not that deep.
Right.
Over here, it's super deep. Over there, it's not. So the chances of me losing a bait today are pretty good. And you have to accept that. You have to understand this is going to cost you about 30 bucks. But if you want to catch muskie, this is a good way to catch muskie.
You save it in gas, trust me.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take very long to put $30 in your boat and go mill around a lake. So it's, gas versus baits. You take your pick.
So I know my name is Muskie, but the reason why my buddies call me Muskie is that I lived on a lake and I'd catch 100, 150 muskies a year. And I'd always do it by myself, and I never had anybody to help me with it until I met Jake. And so then Jake started going on the boats with me, started catching muskies left and right together. And so I finally had a buddy that could help me out and take some pictures. So I'm going to show you how I do this, why I do this, and then how we bring it in, hopefully, if I get one. So there's no guarantees. I'm going to be honest with you. We're in the middle of July. It's a beautiful afternoon, evening tonight. But generally, when it gets hot like this, they go down into the holes.
Yeah.
They don't normally stay right here. So this is really this is probably the worst time of the year to come in and try to show you how to do this. But there is a chance. And if there's a chance, I'm going to go for it. All right, guys, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Perfect. Oh, that's right.
That's one thing I appreciate about dams is if there's a fish there, it usually doesn't take very long. Most people, I think the mistake they make at dams is, they start casting and they haven't fully mentally prepared themselves to hook a fish right away because they just don't expect it.
All right, so we're gonna give it to Jake, and we're gonna let him do his style. He'll explain how he looks at it, how he approaches it.
So I'm going to go a little bit smaller today just because the water's up a little bit with the rain that we've been having. The big thing I look at is I try to get a little bit more up close and personal with the dams. I know not everyone is going to want to do this, nor should they do it. I'll go out there with a kayak, or I'll get out there and just walk around and figure out exactly what the current's doing. So out in the middle of the current, it looks like, it'd be a very uninhabitable place for a fish to sit. But the fact is the current's only on the first foot or so of water. And then there's big rocks and a lot of slack water underneath the current. So what I like to do is I like to get the bait out there, get it under the current, and then work the bait under the current. And then a lot of times you'll get your strikes right in the middle of the current. Otherwise, typically what you'll see, especially in high current areas, is right in front of the bridge. There's going to be a washout where the water hits the front of the piling, and then it displaces, and it's going to take all of the debris in front of it and push it out. So what you're going to see is the bottom's going to go like this until it gets about 5 feet in front of the bridge, and then it goes in like that straight down to the piling. And those fish are pretty consistently going to be nosing right up against those rocks, waiting for stuff to come over them, and that's where you get your strikes. I like fishing the heavy current on, you know, high chance days like this kind of chilly overcast. Especially in current, the fish don't wait around. They're usually pretty eager to strike something as soon as they see it. So.
And my strikes were right in there, like right in that middle towards the edge coming in. All right, here we go, Woody. I'll get out of his way. So he's gonna go more down towards the bottom because he saw I was having a hard time with how fast that's going. And he's working that backside like he said. So he's gonna go more down towards the hole and see what he could do. So that gives him a little more time in the water than myself, because when I throw right up in that current, that goes down fast. And what I don't want it to have happen is for it to get down on the ground and then I hit, good, that's nice, and then I end up hitting the rocks and lose a bait. So he's casting on that back side, and you saw when I cast it, I went top, middle, end. So I went on the back side of that, the middle, and then on the front side. And so Jake's doing something similar on the back end. He's hitting the middle, the end, and he's gonna hit probably the short side here in a second. So you wanna really work that like you would if you're going for trout. Perfect, just like we said. And hopefully he'll get a strike here in a second, because right in that spot down there underneath the bridge, they're gonna be sitting out under there too. And the cool thing about dam fishing, you don't have to stay here forever. You throw in about 15, 20 casts, and you don't get anything, you move on.
Yeah, fish just aren't active in the area.
And right where he casted, going down a little bit, is where I had my strikes. So he did, there he goes. Oh, did you get it? So it looks like you might have had a strike. You can see that rod bend down like that. When you're pulling through there, it might go like this, but our rods are what we call heavy rods. So it really takes a lot to make that rod bend. When this rod goes down like that, he's had a strike. So there's one in there. It's just really not coming after it super hard. It's just kind of going up and snapping on it and letting it go.
I'm sure it's just coming up and biting the tails.
Yeah. You can see how his rod, he's pulling that hard through current. It's not even bending. When you saw his rod bend on that last one, and it went down pretty good, that's a strike. And you can feel it when they hit too.
Yeah, it kind of feels like someone hit it with a bat.
It does. It really feels like somebody hit it with a bat. So he hit it right off the edge of that post, so he can try to get down that hole and pull it in. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna keep fishing here a little bit. I know we're getting quite a bit of video in here. And then if we get something on, one of us, we'll start it back up. Hey everybody. So I want to show you the big muskie that I caught. I have no idea. I've never done this before, doing this. I guess there's always a first for everything. You can tell the sad thing is I hooked this thing right through the swim bladder, so it's going to die. So we're gonna have to throw it back in, I guess. I don't know. Really small to eat, but so yeah, I caught a fish today. Wasn't what I was going for, but I got a fish. All right, thanks guys.
So this is actually the fish, or the rod that I caught that fish that's in the video on my Facebook page, the 54 and a half. How I set this up is it's actually just a regular fluorocarbon musky leader that I've taken the swivel off of, or made without a swivel. And then instead of a loop-to-loop connection like you see with a lot of tippets, I just have a clip here so I can take that off nice and fast. And then same thing down here, so a nice strong connection there to the fly that I tied for the purpose. kind of like a perch fire tiger pattern. I believe it's a 5/0 tarpon hook. And then as far as the rod, I use a 12 weight rod, and then the Reddington Run reel that's a size 8, just because that's what I have.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. All right, everybody. So we were here 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. Got a couple of nice strikes.
Yeah, I had 5 strikes on that blue Medusa, blue and white Medusa 1-pounder. And they were nice strikes. I actually had it on for about 10 seconds and just fighting it and just kind of pulling my thing off and tighten up my thing after we were done, and it came off, and then it didn't strike again after that.
Yeah.
After you hook them like that and you're pulling on them and you're ripping on them, they're not going to hit again.
Yeah, they might hit again if you don't move them, but once you hook them and you move them, they're not going to come back usually. You might get lucky, but typically you won't see that. But the beauty of the fish at the dam is, you know, give it an hour or two and they're going to get right back on that feeding spot. So.
And the perfect for us is, like, you know, you can do this at dams. You can go in, you can fish, you know, the muskie like this. We're showing you muskie today. But if you look on the backside, I'm just going to turn it on so you can see these people over here. There's a bunch of people on the backside of the dam. And what they're doing is they're fishing all the sunfish, and they're fishing perch and maybe walleye, whatever they can get out of there. And so that's great because that stuff actually goes over the dam.
Yeah, and they let it go, it all goes over the dam.
And that's what those muskies are getting. They're going after that. So we're going to go to our next place. It's about 45 minutes from here.
Yeah,
yeah, because we, you know, dam fishing, you don't have to be there a long time. If they're hitting good, you just keep going. If you get some strikes and you get them on and you reel them in a little bit and they come off, you might as well just pick up and go.
Typically what I like to do is I like to set up myself with a route where it goes closest to my house to farthest from my house, and then I'll fish all the ones for the beginning of the day going out, and then I'll fish at the last one farthest away from my house for a little bit longer, and then I will fish my way back provided I have the time for it. But typically those fish that you missed 6-7 hours ago are going to come back and hit. So,
and that's the luxury of dam fishing. So we're going to end this video, and we're not going to put any numbers on what the videos are for this, because we're just going to kind of do it by dam. So you can kind of go in, see how each dam is, how we suggest that you could fish it, and then when we see other fishermen, we're going to tell you what they're doing and why they're doing it, so that you can have that knowledge too. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you having us. And Jake, thank you for coming to me.
Yeah,
coming with me on this, and you were really knowledgeable. And I just enjoy our friendship and fishing together, and I look forward to our next video.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, have a good one, guys.